Hi, everyone. So what we're going to do today is really diving into this equation one more time, and then we will break it down and see every component. And after that, I'll just re-mention this one is a little calculator for your convenience to see how when you change any parameters of the equation, here you're getting a different value. And then we'll look at it in a different way. In fact, it's really the same things. We basically using the golden equation on the enterprise, what I call indirect method or enterprise method. You can look at it in a different way and you get exactly the same result.
Can you check the waiting room? There's some people waiting.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you scroll up for a second to the Gordon equation?
Yeah, I am going. I just wanted to say what we're going to go over today. Here we go. Okay, so last time I tried to explain what's the meaning of the denominator, and I tried to explain what the numerator does. Let's put everything together, okay? In fact, I kind of broke it to two pieces. If you look at it here in the bottom, we have the numerator, and what the numerator means. Basically, EBIT times 1 minus T, think about it, EBIT is operating income or operating profit, okay? Usually the way we calculate the operating profit, if we are given the book value A, we multiply it by return on invested capital. The truth of the matter, this is the definition of return on invested capital. Return on invested capital is defined as, when A times that value equal to EBIT minus 1 minus T. So this is really kind of, you can think about it as definition of ROIC. Or another word, what we have in the numerator, the first part, it's the operating profit after taxes. Someone might ask, and I mentioned that last time, that, well, this seems like wrong. We do not subtract the interest before we're calculating the taxes, because normally we would like to subtract the taxes, and then we will we'll subtract the interest, and then we'll subtract the taxes. And it seems like wrong, okay? Let me jump all the way down. This is the normal way we expect, like the kind of income statement. It's not an income statement really, but from the EBIT, we would like to subtract the interest, and for whatever left, we're paying taxes. This is like the normal way you're familiar with, the left side, you're familiar with from the income statement. On the other hand, the way the equation shows that you do not subtract the interest before you take the taxes. Seems odd, okay? It's like on the right side, we take the EBIT, we do not subtract the interest, and from that amount, we take taxes on the whole amount. So it's 25% of the 150, give me 37.5. It seems wrong, but it really isn't, and why? Okay? The reason is, if you look at the equation at the denominator, and I'm going to explain that in more detail in a second, in the denominator, we're using the WACC. And as you recall, the WACC itself, we take into account already the taxes. Why? Let me remind you. WACC is equal to RD times 1 minus T, and that's already taking into account the fact that interest is tax deductible. And then when we multiply it by the share of D, the debt, relative to the value of the company. And to that we add RE times E over V. Okay, so the WACC is made of, okay, a weighted average of those two. Why is it a weighted average? Because V is equal to the share of D plus the share of E. Okay, so that's why it's a weighted average. Those are the weights. Together, this plus this will give me 1. Okay, and if you notice, in the denominator, in the WACC, which is in the denominator, we already taking into account the tax effect. So if I'm using these equations and I'm taking into account already the taxes in the WACC, I should not take it again second time in the numerator. Well, this is really, I'm kind of explaining, but I really didn't prove it, that it's correct. If you're really interested in diving into it, please contact me. I'll be more than happy to show you that it's really the meaning of that's the way you're supposed to do it when you do evaluation of the whole company. And what do I mean by the last sentence? The valuation of the whole company is the valuation of debt plus equity together. We will see in a minute when we do the valuation of equity directly, okay, we will use in the numerator, we take the taxes, the interest first, and then we calculate the taxes on it. And the denominator, we do not calculate the taxes. Let me explain that, okay? The other way to do it is not valuing V as the value of the company, is valuing E directly. Then what do we need to put in the numerator? In the numerator, we will put the EBIT minus interest, all that, that will be, first of all, the amount of tax we will pay. So far so good, but from this amount, so I will do EBIT minus that amount. Okay, that's slightly different than this equation. Okay, just this part. I'm referring only to this part. Let's ignore
When would
growth.
that be the numerator?
Yeah, let's ignore growth for a second because I just want to focus on this part.
Almost.
Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
When would that be the numerator?
Exactly. That will be the
No,
numerator.
when would it be?
Exactly. That's if I don't have a growth. Okay. In a minute, I'll come if we have a growth. In fact, it's just taking the whole things here. But I will get to that in a minute. Okay. Okay. So that will be the numerator. That one we will need to divide. But this time we do not divide by WACC minus G. We divide by RE minus G. Fair enough? RE, it's before taxes. There's no, I didn't really put the element of taxes. Therefore, I use it in the numerator. Here, on the other hand, we're using WACC, which we already calculated the tax effect. We are using here as if it's as if the company was financed by equity only. Okay? So that's really the difference between the two. I have to really include here the amount of that's almost right. Okay, let me take that one away because it's not 100% right, and I will explain in a minute. Okay, I'll explain that in a minute. But basically, in the numerator, if I do take into account the tax effect, okay, if I do take the tax effect, I'm reducing the interest first. Okay, in the denominator, I do not. If I do take into account in the denominator the tax effect, I should not do it again in the numerator. And that's really the key point for this equation. Questions, guys? I didn't really prove it mathematically, basically, but if you want, please approach me. I will be more than happy. You're ready to show it, so you really just take this one to the left side, move stuff to the right side, and you see you get the same equation.
Amos, you rewrote the formula with the text. You just closed it. You rewrote it, right?
Yeah.
And why did you say that it's equity, not value?
Oh, what I would like to show, it's really the last part of the session today. We first focus on the right side, and after we finish this one, we can see, I can show you, you'll get exactly the same number for valuing the equity if you go what we call direct method of valuing the equity. So let's forget about the left side for a second, focus only the right side and try to understand it. After that, we'll focus on the left side and you will see you get exactly the same result.
Amos, are you saying that this, no, but you're not saying that equity and value are equal?
No, I'm saying that if you value it using the enterprise method, you're valuing the enterprise first, and then you take the portion for the debt, and then the portion of the equity. And the portion of the equity will come exactly the same as if you were doing the valuation directly for the equity.
Could you open the notepad again, please?
Yeah, I will go over it. Just bear with me a second, okay? Because we're jumping and might confuse everybody, okay? So I will come to that, don't worry.
No, you just, the thing is that we went over, we changed the formula, but we said that, but you wrote that it's not E, it's V. So it's V, it's not the value, it's equity.
No. Bear with me, okay? Bear with me a second. Hold the question. I will answer that, okay? Just hold up for a second. For now, we're doing evaluation of the whole enterprise. Enterprise, we mean debt plus equity together. See? It's the value of the debt plus the value of the equity. That's what we mean here, V. So let's focus on that first. Then I will come to the next part, the second part, okay? I just wanted to re-clarify, what do I mean? Why do I take here 1 minus t and not subtract the interest? Because I'm doing a valuation of the whole company. And when we do the valuation of the whole company in the denominator, we're using the WACC. And the WACC, we already took into account the taxes. So in order not to double count, okay, we do not take the interest out of the numerator. So we do EBIT times 1 minus t. We do not subtract first the interest from the EBIT to calculate the taxes. That's the only point I try to make, okay? Later on, in a minute, we'll get to this method, okay? So let's focus only on this one, valuing debt plus equity together. Okay. So I'm not really pushing you out. I mean, I will answer your question in a minute, but just we're jumping to the end of the session today. So I will come back to that, okay? Okay, let's think about it again. What do we mean EBIT times 1 minus t? Let's look at this example. Only on the right side, we have EBIT. What is EBIT? It's operating income. So operating income, the way I can calculate it, if I'm giving the book value of the assets, which is in this example, it's 1,000, I multiply it by ROIC. So in other words, EBIT, we can calculate as A times ROIC equal to EBIT times 1 minus t. Everybody happy? Okay. So this will give me the after tax. This is giving me this part. Okay. So, here I am getting that part. So first of all, I'm calculating the EBIT. This is really, I don't want to dive too much into technicality, but basically, different how you define the ROIC, okay? But for us first here, we're kind of defining it's pre-taxes. So if I multiply it by 1,000, I get 150. Then I multiply by the tax rate. So 150 minus the taxes, okay? This amount, 150 minus the tax effect, it's the EBIT times 1 minus t. So this amount,
Almost.
one second, bear with me. This amount, okay, is really the EBIT. ROIC times the A, I'm getting 150 and I'm subtracting the taxes. Go ahead, I'm with you.
Yeah, if you scroll up, it's not what you wrote, I don't think, when you wrote here, therefore.
Yeah, this one is a little confusing. It should really say without the 1 minus t.
Thank you.
You're right, you're absolutely right. Okay? Good, I will take it away, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, after we calculate the first part, that was good. I'm glad you mentioned that. So after we're getting this one, we try to understand what is G over ROIC. What does that mean? Let's think about it again, and I will give an example. And I like this one. This is a simpler one. Okay. See, if I, now don't get confused between WACC and ROIC, okay? There are two different things, okay? By the way, who mentioned that? Who said that comment, which is excellent comment? What's your name?
Alex.
Alex. Later on, remind me, or after the session, just I'll tell you one more thing, how the two method and the golden equation, what is the little change you have to do kind of when you do the calculation to get exactly the same number. I had a student a couple of years ago, he asked the same questions, and this was a really good question. So if you want, you're more than welcome. I will show you another, how you get the same numbers in this kind of calculator, okay? And the golden equation, it's exactly the same. And how you make sure that you get exactly the same numbers under the two method. Okay, so let's first of all understand what is G over ROIC. If I have any assets, let's say I have $100, okay? And I only make on it the WACC. Okay, if I want that $100 to grow at the rate of G, I must keep in my assets, or if that's a deposit, let's assume the deposit in the bank, it's $100. If okay, what I will get the interest rate. For us, WACC for now, it's like the interest rate. So that's the amount the bank will give me. If I want that deposit to go at the rate of G, I must keep G times 100 in the bank account, so the deposits will go at the rate of G. So if the G, for example, the growth rate is 5%, I must keep 5% times 100 in the bank account, so I will have 105 next year in my bank account. So far, so good? So that's the amount of money the bank will credit my bank account, and that's the amount that I cannot take out of the bank account. I cannot take out of the bank account if I want my bank account to go up by 5%. Fair enough? That's the amount that I can take out of the bank account. Does that make sense, guys? Anybody just say yes? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, that's the amount that I basically can take out of the bank. This is really my cash flow for the first year.
Can you explain that again?
Yeah, this is really my cash flow for the first year. What do I mean? I deposited in the bank $100. The bank is paying me WACC. Let's say, just for the example, WACC is 10%. Okay, so how much money I can take out of the bank account and my deposit would grow by 10%. So the amount of cash that I can take out of the deposit will be 100 times what the banks gives me, which is 10%. Okay, that will be 10, correct? Let's write it again a third way. CF1 will be equal to 10. This then basically it's the 100 times the WACC. This is the amount that my deposits will earn as interest. But I don't want to take the whole 10 out. I just want to take 100 times G. G in our example is 5%. So I have to keep 100 times 5%. That means that I'm keeping in my bank account 5, and how much I can take out of my deposit, that will be 5. So far so good? Everybody happy?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So now just look at the first one. Let's look at this, the first one. And look at how can I rewrite it. I can in fact rewrite it. It's equivalent to rewriting it in this way. I'm sorry. I can write it that CF1 divide by WACC minus G. That should be equal to how much? Anybody? Is that correct?
100.
Does that make sense?
100.
I kind of jumped a little bit. Let me do one more step in the middle, okay? Okay, let me jump. I jumped one step. I did it too fast. That will be equal to the 100 times WACC minus G. That's an easier, okay? Because I just took the 100 out of the parentheses. I took the 100 out. So I have 100 times WACC minus G. Then moving to the next one, it's a little easier. I just take this one and divide it to, or move it to the other side. That becomes to be the 100 equal to the cash flow. So let's take this one.
100 is 100%?
No, the 100 is the amount you put in the bank account.
But if you do divide this, you get 5
Give
over.
me a chance, just 1 second, please. I apologize. Okay. So because I don't want to lose the contact of everyone at the same time. It's a little hard. So in a minute, I'll give time to questions. Okay. Okay. Let me just, so you can see it on the screen, the whole things. Okay, now we see the whole things, okay? We had $100 in deposit, okay? And we said, if the bank is giving me WACC on my money, on my deposit, and I want my deposit to go up by 5%, I must keep part of the money in the bank and not withdraw it. Therefore, how much money can I withdraw? It will be the CF1. Then we said, okay, if this equation is right, and we did all the calculation here, that means I can take the 100 out of the parentheses. Remember again, the 100 is my deposit, okay? And from this equation, I can move up to the next equation, which I recopied here. It's that the 100, the deposits, okay, the deposits equal in fact to the payment I'm getting out of the bank account in the first period divided by the WACC minus G. One more time, this one, it's a logical one to do. This one can be rewritten this way. Therefore, the deposit value, or the value, why the deposit 100, it's equivalent to saying that it's equal to whatever dividend I'm getting or whatever I'm taking out of my bank account, the first period, divide by the WACC minus G. Now questions. Somebody wanted to ask a question before? Is that clear, guys? Hello? Hello? Anybody?
Amos, is this formula explained in the textbook as well?
Yeah. In fact, there's a lot of examples there. But see, just think about it logically. I didn't want it to go in mathematical way. The mathematical way is to try to show the first payment, okay, and then this one and this counted for infinite periods, you get the same results. And this one without using all these infinite sequence, which doesn't really make any sense. This is very, very simple. You say, how much money I withdraw from the bank? The first round. It's really whatever I earn, okay? Minus whatever I need to keep in the bank account in order for the 100 to grow by 5%. And that simple logic really brings to say that whatever the value of the deposit today, which is 100, we know, because that's the amount we deposited, it's equal to my cash flow in the first period. In this case, it would be 5, divided by the WACC minus the growth rate. And that's pretty cool, without having to go into any sophisticated math. Is that
But it
clear,
doesn't
guys?
add up 100. It gets to 1. How do you manage it? How
Say
do you
again?
manage?
It's 5
If we
divided
plug
5.
in the numbers, as you said, we get 1.
It's 5 divided by 5%. You get 100.
Exactly. See the CF1, so you can do the same things, you know, if you want really to see how you can get 100, just do it again this way. CF1 is equal to, you need to take the 5, that's the CF1, divide by 10% minus 5%. No surprise, shouldn't be a surprise. That would be exactly equal to 100. That will be the deposit or the V, okay? That's the deposit. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, does that make sense, guys? We have a deposit of 100. The value of the deposits, you can think about it, this is the 100, okay? It's the same thing, it's like if I gave you how much money the bank is gonna give you in the first period, you say, well, I know that's the amount I have to deposit in the bank account in order to get 5 in the first period. Next period is going to, of course, to go also in 5%. Every time it will go by 5%. My deposit will go up by 5%. The amount I can withdraw from the bank account would go by 5%, and so forth. So why is it really crucial? Because if you look at the equation, you see we have V over this amount. I'll come back to this amount in a second, okay? I'll come back to this amount in a second. But let's look at the bottom, at this part. We're looking only, if I have a cash flow in the first period, if I want to know the value of it, the way to do it, take that cash flow, divide by the WACC minus G, that's that value, okay? So far, we kind of focused only on the numerator. We talked about this part. I'm coming back to this one in a second, okay? But that's the reinvestment that I have to make. But if I have a cash flow, okay, I'm telling you the first payment will be 5 in the first year, then the value, if the WACC is 10 and the G is 5, it will be 100. So that's really explaining the denominator. I don't think we did it last time. We focused on the numerator last time, if I recall. Okay, so this is really like a general equation, easy to remember, because we really didn't use any sophisticated math. Yeah, it's a V times the WACC minus V times the G. It's the amount I can withdraw. Just moving it to the other side, the value of the assets must be the cash flow the first period divided by WACC minus G gives me the value of that payment if it's going to be every year unto infinity, okay, and go at the rate of G. Okay, does that make sense, this equation, by the way? Anybody? Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. In a second, I will summarize everything. Okay, let's look at this part. What does mean G over ROIC? Let's open another one here.
It means reinvestment rate, right?
Correct, exactly right. We'll give it that name in a second. You're absolutely right. Okay, what happens if if I'm saying, I have A is the assets, and on that assets, okay, I'm making some profit, okay? So A, let's ignore the taxes for a second, times ROIC, that will give me my profit. Is that right? Correct? Everybody agree? That's what we call EB.
Yeah.
I'm just ignoring the taxes just for simplicity. Does that make sense? Now I'm asking myself, I want A to grow at the rate of G. Okay? I want A to, next period to be A will be equal to A plus A times G. Okay? I want A to be higher by G percentage, or I can write it as A times 1 plus G. So far, so good. That's the amount that I want G to be. If A will go up by a rate of G, also the profit will go up by a rate of G. Because I'm always assuming I will have the same return of. So think about it for a second. I have an asset, and that asset, I want it to go by the rate of G. So if that asset will go up by a rate of G, my profit will go up also by a rate of G. Because the profit is always ROIC times A. Everybody got that point? Think about it. If I have in the account, in my bank account, 100. So first time I will get 100 times ROIC. Then if I'm keeping some of the money in the bank and I will have 105 next period, well, taking another 10% of that one, that will give me a higher profit, which go up by the rate of G. Okay, so if I want my profit to go up by a rate of G, I have to make sure my assets will go up by a rate of G. And how much do I need to invest in order that A will go up by a rate of G? It's A times G. So far, so good? Okay, guys? Hello? I can't see you, so I can't really see your impression.
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's now look at how much is A times G. What is really A times G? How much is that really equal? If I had the profit, or let's maybe look at this one first. This is equivalent to saying A is equal to profit divided by ROIC. Is that right? Everybody agree? It's the same thing, isn't it? If I say ROIC times A equal to profit, A must be equal to profit divided by ROIC. Same things, no difference. Correct?
Yeah.
So if I replace the A here by this equation, then what do I get? I will get that this is equal to profit times G divided by ROIC. Everybody got it? One more time. Let's say I have an asset. On the assets, I'm making ROIC percentage. That's I should really call it operating profit. Okay? I ignore the taxes for a second. So if I have operating profit, I can rewrite that the A it's equal to operating profit divided by ROIC. And if I want A to grow by a rate of G, that amount will be equal to the profit times G over ROIC, because A is equal to profit divided by ROIC. Maybe we'll do one more step before. How about we write it this way? This one is the A, really. Is that right? That will be maybe easier to remember. This is really the A right from this equation. Everybody agree? This is the A. I'll multiply it by G. And that should be exactly equal to, as I wrote it before, as profit times G over ROIC. And another word, in order for me to grow at the rate of G, I must reinvest out of my profit, that amount. One more time, if I want my assets to grow at the rate of G, I must reinvest G over ROIC percentage of my profit. Okay, if that's the case, how much I can distribute as a dividend? That will be profit minus the amount I am keeping for the assets to grow. So that has to be profit minus that amount. So let's write it again. Profit times G divided by ROIC. One more time. This is the amount I have to keep out of the profit in order for the assets to grow at the rate of G. That's the amount of profit I made. So the amount of profit I made minus whatever I'm keeping in the company, that would give me how much dividend I can distribute out of the profit. Or in another word, I can write profit times 1 minus G over ROIC. Now looks like a little more familiar. The profit, basically, it's really this amount, okay? This is the profit. We're multiplying by Y minus G over ROIC because this is the part we have to keep in order for this company to grow at a rate, at the rate of G. And that's really like the mathematical proof, if you want to call it that way, or the logical way. So in another word, what we have really in the numerator, we have the amount of dividend we can distribute, or the amount of money, I should really say, that we can distribute to the shareholders, plus the debt holders. And that's really the logic of G over ROIC. It's the reinvestment rate. So let's rewrite it that way. I like to write it this way, investment rate, that will be equal to G over ROIC. Okay, that's why somebody mentioned before, rightfully, that it is the reinvestment rate. Reinvestment rate out of the operating profit after taxes. Okay, I just ignored here for the example, the taxes. But basically, this is really the amount that I'm referring to. So that's explaining the numerator. We explained the denominator. Put those together, you're getting the golden equation without diving into too much mathematical proof. That's a clean way of understanding it. Question, guys. This is the time before I move to the example. Questions? Hi, guys.
Yeah, everything you're doing now is just trying to prove the top equation?
No, I just want to show there's another way and you'll get exactly the same result, okay? But first of all, I want to show this calculation. I want to explain the G times A. I want to explain that as well in a good example. I think example is extremely important. How about I see you guys? Everybody awake? Hi, guys.
We're awake.
Everybody is good. No, it's just really odd, honestly, to not seeing you. It's a little.
I think all the formulas and what you're trying to do is just a little bit confusing for most people.
The first time it's confusing. You go over it a couple of times. It makes sense. You will see. And I also put several questions here. If you go into here, I put several questions to help you to really catch the idea. Okay? There's a lot of examples here that I put. But I put the Gordon equations, and I put a lot of examples here for you. I will do maybe one or two. Okay? I won't have enough time. This one, by the way, I took right from the book. That's an excellent example. And I just want to make sure that everybody read the book. So this is really more directed to study than really testing. I'm not really testing you. This is for you. All those questions are for you to review the material. You see, there is like reinvestment rate, GR over ROIC. So this is really a good way of putting those questions so it's help you to study. It's already testing as much as helping you to study. Okay, so, and don't worry, by the end of today, it will be clearer, and after the homework, it will be even clearer, and we will go over it at least a couple more times, okay? Because we'll calculate the terminal value using this equation, and then we'll see, we'll review it again, okay? Okay, so let's put everything together. First of all, we know that G over ROIC, that's what we call reinvestment rate. Okay, that's, I hope it's clear. If I want an asset to grow at the rate G and I'm making profit as ROIC percentage, I must keep G over ROIC of my profit in order for it to grow. If I have any cash flow, okay, that's growing at the rate of G, the net present value of it, it will be that cash flow divided by WACC minus G. If we combine this equation with the fact that CF1 is the numerator here, that's the way we get to the Gordon equation. Let's take an example. By the way, I will come back to that one. I will give it to you as an exercise, but I will do one or two. Let's jump to this one, because this one is supposed to be kind of a good explanation of the equation. Let's start. EBIT times the A, it gives me 150. And out of the 150, I'm taking taxes. So 150, let's even write it down. Okay, let's go and play with it here. Okay, I have the 1,000. That's the A. I multiply it by 15%. I will get the 150. I'll try to do everything that this simulation does. Why it doesn't like me? That should be probably equal like that. Yep, it doesn't like me. Oh, now it does. Okay, but I want it to be 0.15. Good. So how do we get the 150? It's 15%, okay, of the 1,000. Okay. Next, we don't subtract interest. And why we not subtract interest? Because we do evaluation of the whole company. It's the value of the debt holders and the equity holders together. So how much cash they have available by the end of the first period? It's 150. Out of this one, this is like the EBIT, yeah? This is like the EBIT. And then out of this one, to get to the EBIT times 1 minus T. Okay, let me maybe copy that. I'll write it here. And here taxes. And how much taxes will be in this example? We have tax rate of 25%. 25%, it's equal to 0.25. Therefore, I would take the 150 multiplied by the tax rate, I will get 37. So let's put it in negative. So it will be exactly like we have in the simulation. Fair enough? So I'm subtracting 150 minus 37. That's what I would get as the EBIT times 1 minus t. 112.5. Everybody happy? That's really this amount. What is this 30? 30, it's like what we had here as G times A. Let me see why I did it. G times A, it is really the amount that I have to reinvest, okay? So there's two ways to do it. We can really calculate this way, or we calculate it in a simple way. So the simplest way to do, let's call this one A times G, and that's, we call it usually capital expenditure. Okay, well, that's really the amount we have to keep in the company, so the company will grow by 3%, okay, from 1,000 to 1,003%, which is 30. So how much is that one will be? We have the growth rate is 3%, so equal to 0.03. 3%. So this amount will be plus this one times the assets. That will give me the 30. Let's put it in a negative. So we will see it's like in the simulation. So how do I get those 30? Those 30 basically, it's the amount I must keep out of the operating profit after taxes. I have to subtract by 30. That's the amount I will have as a free cash flow. That's what we call it, free cash flow for the firm. The reason we call it for the firm, meaning it's the stakeholders of the firms, which are the shareholders and the debt holders. Okay, so let's do that now. Let's do plus, and we'll get the 82. That's the cash flow for the firm. Or many times I call it free cash flow for the firm. That's a shortcut of free cash flow for the firm. Okay, so we're getting 82.5. Okay, what's the value of that? In order to do that, this is really our, you can think about it, what we called all along CF1. That's really what it is. Okay, according to the equation we have here, like we did a simplification, we take that amount and multiply, divide by the WACC minus G. Okay, so let's go back to here. Let's go back to here. So I have the WACC. In a minute, we'll do the calculation of the WACC. The WACC is simply 15% times 40% plus 40% of the 3.3%. I will come back to that in a second. But let's accept it for now that the WACC is 7.5%. Okay, so in order to do the value of the company, we basically take the cash flow. We'll take the cash flow and divide it by the WACC minus the growth rate. That should give me the value of the company. That's exactly that value. Okay, so how do I get that value? I take the free cash flow for the company, divided by the WACC minus G, and I'm getting 1833. Okay, everybody is happy? Guys, hello?
Would you say again, how did we get the WACC?
The WACC I'm going to calculate in a minute. I didn't do that. I'm going to do it in a second. Okay? Let's put here a little arrow that I need to explain that in a second. Okay? But let's say I gave it to you. So you take this cash flow, divided by the WACC minus G. You get 1833. Now it's easy. What is the value? What is the value of equity of debt? And what is the value of the equity? Since in this example, they told us, and I'm going to use that for a second for the WACC as well. Okay, they told us debt is 60% of the company. So 60%, so let's do it this way. Let's write here, debt is 60%. That's 60%, is that right? That's the debt. So therefore, that amount times that amount will give me how much debt the company is raising. The amount of debt the company has to raise is 1,100. How much equity will be? Two ways to calculate it. You can take the value of the company and multiply it by 1 minus the share of the debt, which is 40% for the equity. Okay? Or you can just do this minus this will give you exactly the same number. So the value of the equity in this example will be 733.34. Here I just made that little Excel to explain every element in here, okay? I might even change this example, putting all the equation here to the right so you can see exactly each one of them, how I calculate it. In fact, you have a good example. I gave you an example from previous year's exam, and I put all the equations there. We'll get to that, okay? But this one just really explaining the 150, it's ROIC. Let me put that one again so you can see it. Okay, how I get the 150? It's simply, I take the ROIC times the total assets. 1,000 times 15, I get 150. The taxes, I take 25% of the 150, that's the taxes. How do I get the capital expenditure? It's 3% of the 1,000. So the assets can grow by 3%. So I have to invest 30, okay? I take 150 minus the taxes minus capital expenditure. That's my free cash flow for the investors. The investors are debt and equity holders. By the way, if I want to ask now, is the 82.50 include the interest? Anybody? What do you say? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yes, very good. Absolutely. Is the 82.50 include the dividend? What do you say, guys? Hello?
Yeah.
Anybody?
You subtracted the net capex. That means.
So it's really include the dividend plus the interest, because we're looking at the whole company together. We're looking at the shareholders and the debt holders together. See, from the 150, we didn't subtract the interest. We just took the taxes and how much we have to reinvest. Whatever left, I can divide it to the debt holders. I will get the interest. Whatever left would go as a dividend. So the 82.5, it's really the dividend plus the interest. Very crucial understanding. What is that 82.5 means? Okay? If I want to capitalize that, that means get the net present value of amount. This amount, I'm going to get only the first year. Next year, I'm going to get the same amount, but 3% higher. Okay? Etc. up to infinity. The net present value of it, it's 1833. And that's because I'm using the equation. I'm taking 82.5 divided by the WACC minus the G. So this is the way we're getting this number. We're taking 82.5 divided by the WACC minus G. Okay? So that's really the equation we have right here. The cash flow divided by the WACC minus G. That gives me the value of the company. Okay? I got the value of the company.
Almost have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you please explain how this includes the dividends again?
Yeah, think about it. What is the 150? It's the operating profit from the whole assets. I use the whole assets. I created 150. I paid the taxes. Okay, that's the taxes. Whatever I have left, from 112, that's really what I have. 150 minus 37 and a half, give me 112.5. From that one, now what can I do with that amount of money? So since I want a company to grow by 3%, I must take out 30, so the 1,000 will be 1,030. So the company is growing by 10%, okay? Whatever left, to whom does that amount belongs to? There's only two guys that it belongs to. It's paying the interest out of it, and whatever left will be available to distribute as a dividend. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Also, we'll see it's another way in a minute, okay? A little different, but it gives you exactly the same result. But that's a really clear point. Many times it's missed, that's why I'm emphasizing it, okay? It's like you do all the calculation and all of a sudden you forget what really the 8250 means. That's the cash flow for the debt holders plus the equity holders. And what is the cash flow for the debt holders is the interest. What is the cash flow for the shareholders is the dividend. So the 82.5 must be the sum of those two. Okay, good. Then after we're getting the value of the company, we are told that for 60% it belongs to the debt holders. That means 60% of this amount, it's 1,100. That's the amount of debt, the market value of the debt of this company. And the rest, it's the equity value, which is the 40% of the value of the company. There's one more thing that somebody asked, and I kind of skipped because I wanted to focus on that one. How do we calculate the WACC? Very simple. We know how to do it. Okay, we had that equation, I think, somewhere. We wrote it somewhere. Is that here? No, the other way, the other one. Okay, we had the WACC right here. Is that right? So let's rewrite it. So let's do the calculation using that one. So we have WACC equal, let me do it, equal to 0.6 times the interest rate. How much is the interest rate? 3.333%. So let's just write 0.0333 few times. And all of that times 1 minus the tax rate. The tax rate is 0.25%. That's the part of the debt. I repeat, 60% of the 60% is the debt share. Okay? Times the RD, what you call RD, times 1 minus T, plus RE, which is the return for the equity, which is given here as 15%. So I multiply it 0.15 times the share of the equity, which is 40%, because the debt is 60%, the equity is 40%. So here I have to multiply by 0.4. I should get the same number. So 0.75, that's the way I arrived to this number. I skipped that before, I just went again. So how do I calculate the WACC? It's a weighted average cost of capital, 60% of the RD times 1 minus T plus 40% of the RE. This one really should say RE, that's return on equity. It will be 15%, 40% of it. I will add them up and I will get to the 7.5%. Is that clear, guys? Questions? Let's pause for a second because I want to go over the other method, and that's where we'll see we'll get exactly the same results. Questions, guys? Anybody alive?
Yeah, will this Excel be updated? Will it be uploaded to the Moodle?
If you, I thought about a better idea. Tell me what you like. I have no problem to upload it. I even can put it right down here. Okay. No problem. I thought about a better idea. How about the right, which is right on the right side of this one? So I said the EBIT. This one. How did I got it? It's ROIC times A. You got it?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Is
Actually.
that will be better, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that better. Yeah. If we have
Okay.
the-
Will you mind
Much
just
better.
send me an email? I think that would be nicer. This is good for class. You know, it's good for, I will upload it as well. You know what? Why not? And if whatever helps, this is good. But I think it will be complete if I'll put the equation right on the right side. That will be nicer. Let me just double check so I make sure that I save it. This is session number 5, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's for that one. Now I will remember. I will put it right down here. And then in the next upgrade, I will do the system and put all these equations here. Just if somebody can send me an email so I won't forget it. Okay, wonderful. Now that we kind of, let's take a pause. And what we did so far, we focused on the debt holders and the equity holders as if they were one person. I want to do it in a different way, which is more natural to people, but in real life, it's less common method. Okay, it's more intuitive to some extent. Sometimes it's more confusing to some people. What people usually, when they do evaluation, this is the more prevailing method. So we really went over, I would say at least 90% of the time people use this one. I always do both of them, okay? And I try to see that I really getting in real life. You will see in real life, nothing works exactly like those nice equations. So you do both of them, and they really should be very close. You should get really very close results. Theoretically, you should get exactly the same number, okay? So now we want to focus as if there is only from the perspective, it's not only, it's from the perspective of the shareholders only. So we're focusing on the cash flow of the shareholders only, cost of capital of the shareholders only. By the way, cost of the capital of the shareholders only is the 15%. It's not the WACC. The WACC, it's the cost of capital of debt holders and equity holders together. That's why we're doing a weighted average. When we talk about the company, the shareholders only, cost of capital is return on equity. It's the 15%. So here we're going to use 15%, while here we use the WACC. A free cash flow will be totally different than this one. This one, it's include the equity and the debt holders, whatever we can distribute to them. Here, we're talking about only the cash flow that goes to the equity owners. So let's start step by step, okay? Step number 1, how do I get 150? Anybody wants to guess? Guys?
Assets times ROIC.
Exactly, okay? So let's call that equity here. That's for the equity method. So we're getting, again, we have the 1,000 and we have the ROIC, it's 15%. Therefore, we get here 1,000 times ROIC, we get the 150. That's the 150 right here. Okay, but before we subtract the taxes, we must subtract the interest because it's allowed for tax purposes. This time, remember, we're going to use cost of capital of equity. We didn't take into account the taxes, so we have to take the taxes here. But before we can calculate the taxes, we might subtract the interest. And here is the hardest part, okay? How do I calculate the interest? See, I didn't really need it in this method. I didn't need to break the 82 to those two pieces. Here, I must calculate the interest. And here is the puzzle. I need to calculate the interest as percentage of the debt. And how much debt this company has? Well, from the data on the top, we don't really have it. We just know it's 60% of the value of the company. Yeah, but what is the value of the company? I don't really know. So if I ignore the right side, I don't really know what the value of the company, there's no way I can calculate the interest. okay? The truth of the matter, and I won't dive too much into it, by the way this simulation is written, it's in the way I'm going to say it, and this is the right way. I don't really know the value of the debt. In order to know the value of the debt, I must know the value of the company. But I don't really know the value of the company, so I can't really calculate it. But if I look on the right side, I already calculated the value of the company, and therefore I value the value of the debt. If I take 3.3% of the value of the debt, I will know exactly the interest. Let's go and calculate it. I will take 1833, no, sorry, I'll take 1100. That's the value of the debt. And somebody should really ask a question and to say that he is confused, and you're absolutely right. You should be confused. Times 0.0 and many 3. That's the interest. Why doesn't like me?
When you say that you calculate both ways, so you calculate first of all in indirect method, because without the enterprise value, you won't be able to calculate the direct.
Right. So bear with me. Hold this, that question. It's a good question. I'm going to get back to it. Okay? See, if I want to do the direct method, there is no way I can calculate this one. I don't really know the value of the company yet. So I don't really know the value of the debt. So I can't really do this valuation. The truth of the matter, there are two equations. It's two simultaneous equations that has to be solved together, okay? So because see what happened. I have to find the value of the company, but I don't really know the value of the company. I don't know the value of the equity. I don't know the value of anything. So I cannot really value the interest. So theoretically, I should really calculate this one in order to be able to value the interest, okay? Got it? But it's really simultaneous equation. I'm not going to get into it, but just accept it. So if I give you this question in the exam, you first do this one, you know the debt, and you know on the debt, you should pay the interest rate. And that's the way you calculate the interest. But you can solve it as an iteration, and that's the way really, in fact, this is the simulator. It does it like 500 times until it's converged, and you get exactly the right. I won't get into that in this course. It's an introductory course, but just be aware to it, okay? Okay, so now that I got the interest, I know how much is the profit for the shareholders this time, because I subtracted the interest. Is that right? So 3.33, that's EBIT after interest. Now taking the taxes, it's just very simple. I have 25%, it's the tax rate. So let's take here 25% of this amount. That will give me the taxes. I'll just change it to negative as it is in the simulation. So taxes will be 28.33. Okay, so one more time. We have the EBIT, which is ROIC times the A. I subtract the interest, and in this method, I don't really have a way to calculate it unless I know already the value of the company. Okay, so let's leave that one. And I will make a comment later on toward the end of the session, how you really solve it as a convergence of two equations, okay? And I subtract the interest then I have EBIT after interest. I subtract the taxes. That's more natural way for people that used to income statement, okay? And then I have to subtract the whole amount we invested in the company, and that's 30. Okay, so this 30 is exactly as we did here. That will be 3% times the 1,000. I'll put it again up. I did 3 or 30. I did 30 minus, and I need to add 0. Okay, so I have to subtract 30. That's for capital expenditure, exactly as in the other. The only difference, I would like somebody to ask a question here. Anybody? Anybody
Why
wants
for
to ask
the-
a question?
Why for the CapEx did you take it from the 1,000, but then for the interest, you took it from the
Yeah, you're close, you're getting close. See, I'm looking for the point of view of the shareholders. Okay, before we said the company has to invest 30 in order for the assets to go up by from 1,000 to 1,030. Now, well, I'm looking only the shareholders. How much is the shareholders has to really put out of the 30? Remember, the shareholders is only 40% in this company, isn't it? Everybody agree?
Yes, if 60 is that percent and 40 is equity.
Exactly. So in fact, this is really like, I just really want to open your eyes. This is really, I should write it's 12 plus 18. How did I get those two numbers? Why it's 12? What is the 12? 12 is 40% of the 30. You got it?
yeah.
Yes.
And 18, it's 60% of the 30 because I have debt holders and equity holders. Since I'm looking only from the perspective of the equity owners, okay, he is not really going to put the whole 30. The debt holders is going to pitch in some amount. And here it's come to be 33, okay? This is a little more advanced calculations. So the 33 inside it, it's embedding the 18. They're really taking 18 as contribution to cover the 30. So if I take 33, if you got lost, don't be panicking. That's normal. You should be lost. It's not an easy stuff, okay? So 18, it's the amount that the debt holders has to contribute in order for the company to invest 30 to increase the assets by 3%. Okay? The other 15, anybody wants to guess what the other 15 are?
Wait, Almos, can you tell me what the 15 was? I didn't understand.
Yeah. I'm saying, okay, you know what? Let me take one step back. I want
It's just 33 minus 18. Okay.
exactly. But why did I do that? Okay. Let me go to the end and then go back to that one. How did I get to this 33? Why did we got that number? Anybody wants to guess? Anybody wants to guess?
Is it assets times interest rate?
How about if I say, how much is the debt? How much debt do we have? We know it's from here. Is that right? You agree?
Yes.
1,100, it's the debt. How much is 3% out of it? How much we got?
36.67.
We got exactly 33. 3% of the debt, we got here debt 1,100. So what is this 33? See, that we have a company that's growing. See, this is a little tricky. This is a really beautiful exercise for you guys. You know, don't give up. It's hard. Honestly, it's hard. Usually in undergrad, I usually don't push, but over the years, I noticed that my students are smart enough to overcome it. It's a little hard for the first time, but after you review it several times, you feel really good when you understand it, okay? I have a company. This company in a steady state, eventually, the value of the debt is 1,100. The value of the equity is 733. We already know it from the first method. If this company is going to grow, okay? If this company is going to grow by 3%, the debt holders has to put more 33 for their debt to go up by 3%. Therefore, that's the amount we're getting to the 33. That's why we have the 33 here. Okay? The debt holders has to put more money into the company of 33, so their proportion relative to the equity owners will stay 60%. Otherwise, the ratio will change. So in order for them to keep their 60%, they must contribute 3% of their market value. Now that 33% has two components. 18, they had to do for the capital expenditure, and the remaining, because it's the market value, is higher than the book value. 3% of the 1,000 gave me the 30. But the truth of the matter, since the market value it's higher than the book value, they have to put 33, not only the 18, which is their share in the 30. Okay?
So is the 30 assets times growth rate?
Correct. The 30 is 3% times the 1,000. That's the amount that the company has to raise in order for the book value to go up by 3%. But for the debt holders to keep their share of 60% of the market value of the company, they must contribute 33. And it's amazing. You will see in a minute when you do the whole calculation. So let's go back to the beginning.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
You said that the 30 was assets times growth rate, but that's exactly what we said net capital expenditure was. Is that
Correct.
right?
It's the same word. It's the same things. This one. This 30, it's the capital expenditure. It's the 3% times the 1,000. But pay attention. In fact, the part that the debt holder has to put from the book value, it's 18. And the shareholders has to put only 12. But we're seeing here that the debt holders has to contribute 33. Why they have to contribute more than the 18? That's a really hard question. I'm not going to ask you in the exam, okay? I just really want you to know this method, but this is a really hard one, okay? They have to put another 15. And why they have to put more than the 18? Because the market value of debt is higher than really only 600, which is 60% of the 1,000. That's a really subtle point. Think about it. And if you guys want me, I will go over that again next week. I will re-emphasize that point. But from calculation point of view, how much debt I have to raise, it's 33. And 33, I get to the 33, it's 3% of the market value of the debt. Okay? Beautiful. So now we're adding up everything. We're adding up everything. Did I miss something? Anybody can help me? What did I do wrong?
Miss 7.
I missed, no, I had 113.
Minus 28.
Let's do it again. Plus 113. We subtract the taxes. We subtract the capital expenditure, and we add back this one. Why do I get a different number than I get here? What did I miss? No, this one should be in the negative. No, this should be positive. That's fine. I did the whole things. This one. What happened? What did I miss? Anybody can help? 1588.
One of the which I think your website might be wrong.
I think this is wrong. Am I right? Okay, I will check that, okay? Can you please send me an email? I will check on that. I really appreciate it. I will fix it, okay? But basically, that's we'll see in a minute if I was right or not. Now, I take that amount, and divide it by 15% minus the growth rate. No, minus 0.03, and that should be the value of the company. You're right, this is the typo, okay? I think I subtracted that one. This number should be really 88, okay? Fair enough? I will fix it. It's really a typo in there, but we see we're getting the same number here. That means this is the right number. Okay, if somebody will send me an email, I will really appreciate it. But I will remember, but just in case. I'll
Or
fix
can you say again how we got to the equity value?
Yeah. Okay, one more time. We got the 150, we subtract the interest, we got EBIT after taxes. From that, we subtract taxes, we subtract capital expenditure, and we're adding back the contribution of the debt holders. What is the contribution of the debt holders? For the debt holders to keep 60% in the market value, they must contribute 3% of their debt value. Debt value is 1,100, therefore they have to contribute 33. So if I take the 113, subtract taxes, subtract capital expenditure, add back the whatever I'm raising as debt, 33, I should get 88 here. I have a typo here in my my presentation, so I would fix it. It should give me 88, okay? If I take the 88, that's the cash flow for the shareholders. That's why we call it free cash flow for equity. This is the free cash flow for the equity owners, not it's not like we did here. Let me just write it. That's a company, let's call it firm. So we know the difference. Here we call that one, what is that one? Here we go. Free cash flow for the firm. Here we have free cash flow for the equity. And the cash flow of the equity, in order to know this is going to go up by 3% every year, how do I do the market value of it? I just take the cash flow, you see, the cash flow, it's D13, divide by cost of equity 15%, that's the 15%, minus the growth rate 3%. If I do that, I get exactly 733.34, exactly as in the other method. Both method gives me exactly the same amount. By the way, this is the typo. It will change here, but I will fix it. Okay, let's play with it slightly. Okay, everybody, but before I have another couple minutes, but if anybody has a question, this is not easy stuff, but please review the video. Okay, the only things I would like you to do, and I put it in the homework, and that's really those cases. If you go to those cases, by the way, I put exactly the same simulation here. So everything's like, for example, let's do the first one. ROIC, if I put a return on invested capital to be 10%, and growth 0%. That's the way you do the homework, okay? What is the value, by the way? What are we getting? The value of the company is 1,000, debt holders is 600, 400. Is that something that tells you, is this company creating value? What do I mean by that? Pay attention, the investment, the original investment was 1,000. And this company has no more value. It's only worth 1,000. That means, in fact, that the managers are creating return on invested capital only of 10%. Pay attention, the WACC is 7.5. So if you take 10% times 1 minus T, let's write it quickly. We have only a couple minutes, I apologize. If you take 10% times 1 minus the tax rate, No surprise, it's exactly 7.5%. That's exactly the WACC. So if the ROIC, okay, after tax, it's equal to the WACC, then in that case, there is no creation of value. The only way, and that's why I gave you the case number 2, go ahead and change the ROIC to 11. So now you will see that really there is a creation of value. Why? The company value now is 1,100, is more than 1,000. So the managers created value. So creation of value is because the return on invested capital is higher than the WACC, okay? You cannot have increase in value, okay, unless the ROIC after tax is higher than the WACC. And moreover, okay, if you continue with my example, change now the G from 0 to 1%. Pay attention to what happened to the value of the company. It went up further. So growth has effect only if the ROIC is higher than the WACC. I repeat it. If I put this one back to 10, you will see growth has no effect. If I have 1%, 2%, nothing changes, okay? Nothing will change. It will stay 1,000. It really doesn't affect, the growth has no effect. Okay. On the other hand, let's put back, let's make even, let's put here 14%. The higher the ROIC, the higher will be the value of the company. Further, if the ROIC is higher than the WACC, growth has a big effect. And I gave you some exercises.
10% was already higher than WACC. 10% was already higher than 7.5. No?
Exactly.
No,
If,
so why did it? So why did it?
no, it's after taxes. It's after taxes. That's somebody made a comment in the beginning of the session. I said he was right. Okay. So here it really should be after taxes, the way this simulation works. So if I have 10%, it's like after taxes, it's 7.5. Is that right? If I make it 14, if I make it 14, that will be after taxes. It will be higher than the 7.5. Let's create a value. Okay. Moreover, if ROIC after taxes is higher than the 7.5, growth has a big effect. See, it's really increasing it even further. But if they are equal, it has no effect. Okay. And always you will see, doesn't matter what you do, both methods will give you always the same result. Okay, guys, I won't take much of your time. I will be here. If somebody wants to ask questions, I can take questions, but anybody, this is the end of the session, but I have time, so I can take questions if anybody wants to. And I will leave it in the recording. Okay, anybody, questions? Unless you have to go, so you can go, but I'm ready for questions.
Thank you, Amos.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Alan.
guys. Thank you. Look at those ones. I really built those ones for you as a good review. Those questions are made for excellent review of the material. Almost everything you see the exam, it's right here. Okay? Any questions?
Yes, Amos,
Go ahead.
please, can you explain what does it mean? How does it work that the debt owners have to chip in more money?
Oh, think
does it-
about it. Let's say me and you
No.
partner.
What I'm asking, how is it happening? Is it coming out from
Wonderful, wonderful.
from
That's a
the
good
from the
point, and
earnings?
it's going to be in the recording, so everybody will hear the answer. See, the debt holders, you have to pay the interest. So you are going to pay the interest, okay? Let me open this one here. So you have to pay the interest. So this one will go, you have to pay it, no choice, okay? So you will say, okay, if I'm paying them their interest, I have to raise more bonds in the end of every year. In real life, this is really more theoretical example. In real life, you don't do it every year. You see companies, you know, every 2 or 3, sometimes even every year, they're raising more bonds, they issue more bonds, they take more loans to catch up with the fact that the value of the company is growing and they want to keep the same ratio of debt to equity. So it will be 60-40%, you know? So in real life, you're raising more debt, or you take a loan from the bank, or you're raising more bonds. You don't do it, many times you don't do it in the same, every year, you just do it every 2 or 3 years, okay? And then you don't just raise 33, you raise 100 if you do it every 3 years or something like that. But
And
it's
this is
a
the
very
reason
good
why.
question. Very, very good question. The other point is, okay? The other point is to, what about the equity? In the equity, it's a little easier. You don't have to distribute dividend. So you just distribute less dividend and you keep part of the profit in the company. Is that a complete answer?
Almost. No, what I'm saying is that it's not that they take from their pocket. It's the money that they just take. They receive less from the earnings, right?
That's for the equity owners. Pay attention. The interest you must pay. That goes to the debt holders.
Okay, so so if paid out the interest, now I have to increase my debt.
Correct,
Yes,
by 33.
I have to sell more bonds.
Correct.
So so it means that what I had, the people that had their share in that, it becomes.
You know, the total debt holders will stay 60%. But the debt holders don't really care. They don't have any voting rights. So it doesn't make any difference to them. You're right. If I had a 1,000 people, the debt holders, now I'm adding another 5 or 6 just to increase the debt. Their shares in the debt would be lower, but it's really doesn't make any difference.
And this
They
is the
don't
reason
vote,
that.
they don't vote anything. So it's
And this is
almost
the reason
equal.
why this is why it's said that that the debt is more expensive than the equity, because we have to reissue a new bond.
If you want to keep
every-
the proportion, don't get confused. No, that's be careful from that statement. It's not a complete statement. For the debt holders to continue having 60% of a company that's worth today 1833, their share is 1100. Next year, the value of the company going to grow by 3%. Therefore, they must contribute another 3%. Otherwise, the ratio of 60-40% will not stay the same.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the only point. But don't forget, this is really more theoretical example. In real life, that's what we will do the next few sessions. We'll go into what's really happening in real life. But this is at least give you some, it gives you a little bit some kind of what's happening in the long run, in a steady state. What does it mean in steady state? When the company got to a maturity, is going in the same rate, you understand the dynamic for this way. In real life, a little bit, it will help out what happening in real life. That's what we'll do in next sessions. In the next few sessions. In fact, next session, I'm already going to talk about what happened in growth, how you estimate growth in real life, okay? And then we move from theory to real life. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. More questions, anybody? Okay, have a good one, guys.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.